Hello, everybody. Welcome to Candid Conversations. I am Reverend Abigail Schairer. I am one of your co-hosts, and it is a delight to have you here with us today. And I've asked Stephanie Ann to go ahead and do our opening prayer. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Stephanie Ann.
Thank you so much. Holy One, Source, Spirit, God, Divine Oneness, please bring us open ears, open hearts, and open eyes so that in learning more about each other, we may learn more about ourselves and you. All these things we pray, and so it is.
And so it is. All right. Well, in typical fashion to our Candid Conversations, as the co-host, I would love to introduce how I see myself. What do I identify as? And just to kind of give you context from where I come from, also knowing that just because I identify as a certain identity, you may have a context in your mind about what that means, and it might mean something completely different for me. So I'm just going to tell you that I identify as white, and there is of the white race, and race is not really I've said this before, but it's not really a technical term. It's more of a social construct that was created to keep people in certain boxes. So I'm not really happy with that identity of a white race, because it's a lot of people have done some abusive things to other races. But it is what I feel like I look like is a white person. I do know my ethnicity being German, Irish, and also Prussian, which covers a whole area of different countries right now, including Russia and Ukraine and different countries along that area. So I haven't done my ethnicity history, but that's where I come from. Actual different countries, I do identify as American. If I go visit somewhere, that's what I say I am American. I also have I was born female and I identify as a woman. I identify female. My age is 45. My sexual orientation is a lesbian. I have a master's degree in education. I would consider myself middle class. And I would consider myself able-bodied and with an average body size. And I am married to a woman who is Mexican American. And so I'm in an interracial marriage. And I would consider my spiritual identity as trans-denominational or interdenominational or interfaith. And I would also say that I grew up Christian, so I'm a huge fan of Jesus and the teachings that he taught and continues to. I continue to be informed by. So that's a little bit about me, so you understand your co-host here. And I'd like to turn this over to Stephanie Ann so they can introduce themselves.
Hi there. I'm Stephanie Ann Johnson. As far as ethnicity goes, I am a Black American. I'm part of the African diaspora. Sexual orientation, goodness gracious, what are we doing today? It's like pansexual. So this means that I'm attracted to people regardless of their gender. My education, my educational privilege. I have a BA in English, class, most likely middle class, but by the grace of my family, I have slept inside every day of my life. God bless it. Body size, I am like average body size. I have previously been a person that would need an extender on an airplane, but I'm not currently that body size. Marriage status, for all legal purposes, a single type individual. and spiritual identity. I was raised evangelical-ish, with the lock-ins and the bus ministries and such. But currently, I find spirituality on my own terms. I find it in making music, and I find it in meeting new friends from new places.
Sweet. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Truth,
And
mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I'm a gay man of a certain age. Um, uh, I am married, but husband is back in Texas, and eventually he'll be the ex-husband. Um, uh, some I'm college educated, but I don't have a degree. And I do want to say about identity classifications. I'm not real big on it because what it does is it separates us into categories. And if we really want to change the world, we need to concentrate on what we have in common and not what we have, not our differences, what we have in common. Because we basically all want the same thing. I mean, we all want to, to be happy. We want to feel safe and secure and, where we live and hopefully, leave the world or our family in a better place. Be able to raise our kids, better than what we had. Or, I think we should concentrate. If we want to affect change, we need to concentrate on what we have in common and then build on that. But to each his own, that's just my opinion. So that's who I am. What I know when Reverend Abigail approached me for this, she wanted the perspective of somebody who's been homeless, and I use the term hobo for a couple reasons, and prefer it. One, when you tell somebody, a homebody, that you're homeless, I mean, it comes what you get back is a certain amount of pity and everything, and you know so what I on the identity thing though, what I never did was identify as a homeless person. I called myself a hobo. For one thing, a lot of people, I mean, I've had people tell me, they kind of had a romantic ideal about hobos, which technically I wasn't a hobo because hobos ride the trains and I never rode a train. But, a hobo, call myself a hobo to steer people away from the pity that I might get. I can make hobo funny. Like I could say I was the homo hobo, which I did. Or, I'm a broke, penniless hobo who fancies himself a sidewalk preacher man. I can make it funny and thus steer people away from the pity. So that's
Can you tell us what you'd prefer instead of pity? What would you prefer? How would you prefer to treat you?
Respect. Allow me to keep my dignity and everything. And honestly, I and do not judge me. I mean, one time, I had to always have a JBL speaker that I have to charge up, and downtown in Belltown, there's the cruise ship terminal. On top of that is a observation deck, and I would go there because they had plugs I could plug into and get my charge. And one morning, I'm out there, and I see three people walking up. It's uh, a man in his, I'd say, 20s, late 20s, with I'm guessing it was his girlfriend, and then it looked like an older lady that I assumed was his mother. And as they're walking up, the young girl is just on her phone, and as she's walking by, the look she gave me of judgment,
Mm.
because I mean, clearly I was a hobo. I had all my stuff there. It was just like, I mean, the look of judgment, I was like nothing. And I sat there and I was like, man, no, no. And so I went up to her and interrupted her phone call, and I thanked her. And I said, I just want to thank you because I haven't been judged yet today.
Mm.
And I just stood there and looked at her. I was shaking. I was so mad. But on the same token, one time I just got kicked out of another shelter. And I was sitting there trying to figure out, what was next. And I'd lost a bunch of stuff, and I'm just sitting out there by the building, and this, young lady comes walking by, and I mean, just the look of pity. And as she's walking by, I was just like, what was that? Pity? It's like, don't pity me. I mean, you want to help me, but don't pity me. And but because the Spirit always gives me what I need, right after that, this man is walking past, and he goes, I like your ankle bracelet. And I said, thank you. Thank you. So yeah, as a hobo, what you ask for is to be able to get through it with your dignity and self-respect. And oddly, there's a lot of people who work, at the shelters and in the services to help hobos who want to strip that away. But it is what it is. But just, treat me with dignity, respect, and don't fear me. I mean, so there
Yeah,
you have it.
I appreciate that. And I think that's really important to see each person as a human. And regardless of life circumstances, each and every one of us, I think, like you said, Truth, that there's an inner desire to be seen, to have safety and security, and to be
Well,
happy.
okay. I want to touch on that right there
Okay.
because
Yeah.
you know what you don't have about you want to be seen. You know
Uh-huh.
what what you have absolutely none is privacy. You have no privacy. You live your life in front of everybody. And so, a lot of times, yeah, uh, you know, don't, don't look at me with judgment or pity and everything, but if you don't, I'm good not being seen. Like I'm okay just doing my thing, trying to, with me, connected with the divine is singing and dancing. Uh, and uh, I do it out in public all the time. I mean, one time I was at, like I said, I always have my little JBL speaker, and if y'all are going to see back, y'all are going to see it. But one time uh, I had to go see the bone doctor at Swedish, and it was at the um, orthopedics. I never remember what those are, but anyway, I had to see the bone doctor in Swedish, and I was early for an appointment. And outside the building next to the main hospital, um, where my appointment was, they had these large boulders and everything. And I was sitting up there, and I was like, wonder if I could dance on one of those. And so I set up my speaker, found, on one boulder, got up on another, and you know what, I could. So I'm doing that. I'm sitting up there, waiting for my appointment, just dancing and trying to find some happy, because you don't find a lot of it when you're a hobo, but finding my happy and everything. And clearly, I was homeless, had my hobo cart there with me, and out of the blue, this young man walks up to me, and he goes, I want to thank you. And I was like, okay, for what? And he goes, seeing you here dancing on this rock, all of a sudden my life problems don't look so bad.
Mm.
And I worked hard to get my happy, and dancing, a lot of it involved dancing by myself. I didn't care. I mean, one night I literally, after being told to move all day long, on, I believe Seneca Street, in between Third and Fourth. The library's right there on the right, and I danced in the middle of the street while traffic was coming. I mean, so long as I got out of the way of the buses, I was okay. Uh, and I mean, that's how far I would go to get my happy, because that was one thing that I was, I had bad days and everything, but what I never did was go to sleep without my happy. Even one night, it involved having to save a life. Uh, I was at you know, this was something that I was totally unprepared for. I, I grew up in Texas as a gay man, and trust me, I know what discrimination is, and hate. I got jumped by 5 guys one time, uh, uh, and so um, I was prepared for gay discrimination. What I was totally unprepared for was hobo discrimination. And one time, the place where I first got my shelter was at through Operation Night Watch, and starting at 9 o'clock, they would serve dinners, and then they would send you to the shelter. And so I was waiting for a bus uh, to take me over to 12th and Jackson, and uh, all of a sudden and at that time they give out like little bus tokens, like, to all the hobos. Most of the time I would use them to trade for smokes, but I had bus fare. I was waiting for a bus, and bus comes up. It's the number 36. I'll never forget it. And as I'm getting on the bus, with my hobo cart, the bus driver said, payment is due before you get on the bus, or before you sit down. And I was like, okay, we can just give me a second, I'll dig it out and everything. And she was like, you should have that ready before the door opens. I mean, just hateful. I mean, hateful. And I got it, and I sat, kind of sat down, paid my fare and sat down. And I was like, I even said, I was like, man, is it me? And there's a woman uh, across the way. She goes, it is. She goes, that bus driver just let these 2 guys get on with beers. And I was just like, wow. And I mean, I mean, even that woman looked at the bus driver, was like, you're something else, lady. And then so she goes on to the next stop, and it was Halloween, uh, uh, right around Halloween time, and she goes to the next stop, and this uh, hobo, this older guy, in shorts and a ragged t-shirt and everything, wanted to get on the bus, and she just shut the door in his face, didn't even let him get on the bus. So we go back to I go to Operation Night Watch, and then a couple days later I was in the same situation, waiting for the bus to take me to get my shelter and everything, and here comes a 36. And I'm like going, surely it cannot be her. I mean, surely. Yeah, well, bus pulls up, door opens up, and this woman sat there and sneered at me and said, I remember you. And I was like, yeah, I'm starting to remember you too. And she goes, you defiled my bus when you were on it the other day. Defiled was the word she used. And I was like, man, that's just like just talking about my essence here. And I mean, the first time it happened, I was angry. This time I was just, I, I, I was not prepared for it. So anyway, I go to my, go and eat and get going to my shelter, and I'm laying there and I'm like thinking, man, I don't want to go to bed mad. I don't like I gotta have my happy before I go to sleep. And so anyway, I was sitting there and laying there, and all of a sudden I heard like my given name is Roderick. I go by Drick up here. Um, and when I was laying in the bed, and I heard like Derek, some guy call out Derek, and I was like, are they calling me? And then I was like, no, they're calling Derek. And I get up, and it's this um, two guys, kind of a skinny guy and a big guy, and they're brothers. And the skinny guy is trying to help the bigger guy set up in his on his cot. And he said he's having an epileptic attack. Well, one of my nieces from my marriage is an epileptic. And I talked to her and I asked her, well, like if you're having an attack, then, what do you do? And she goes, you just make sure like that I don't hurt myself. She goes, normally I come out of it on my own. But if I don't, you need to call 911 or I will die. And so anyway, the guy is trying to set up in the bed. His brother tells me he's having an epileptic attack, and he's trying to speak, and he was mumbling, and we finally, I was like, he's saying bathroom. So we pick him up between the two of us, and we carry him to the bathroom, and he didn't need to go and everything. But as we were heading back to the uh, sleeping area, he just collapsed. And anyway, the uh, the shelter lead came up, and I was like, dude, you need to call 911. This man needs a doctor. And he was real hesitant. And I'm like, dude, if you don't, trust me, I've got family. This man can die. You want to call 911. I mean, you don't want the headache of this man dying. And anyway, so called 911. Paramedics get there, and he goes to the hospital. And I saw him and his brother a few weeks later, and they were okay. And so that night, I when I went to bed, I wasn't ecstatic, but at least I had my happy back because the man, didn't die there in that shelter. Uh, but the spirit, the next day, spirit didn't think I was quite happy enough. So the next morning I get up, and I was standing over there at the University District in the basement of a Quaker church. Love the Quakers. and and so I was catching the 70 back into town. And we were riding over there, getting close to the Fred Hutch Center. And the bus was like, I mean, packed. It was standing room only. It was one of those long, three-door buses, and it stops to pick up some people. And there's this hobo who is an older guy who's struggling to get off the bus, and he's standing basically at the front, and all of a sudden, like he lost his bladder, and he just like, I mean, and 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 I realized what he was trying to do was get off the bus so that like because I mean like I don't know what happened, but the man lost like control of his bowel. He peed himself standing there, and everybody on the bus saw the same thing, except what I saw was a man in distress who needed help. And what they saw was a hobo who didn't know where a bathroom was. Anyway, so he started going down, and I climbed over like all my bags through 2, 3 people and caught him just as he was going down. And I've never been to medical school or anything, but I know that if somebody's in distress, they do not close their eyes. So I laid there and I was like, sir, I held him like and I mean we were laying in his urine and everything and the odor. I'm like, sir, you know, you cannot close your eyes. You cannot close your eyes. And I'm just telling him, it's like, and then I look up to this bus full of people. And I was like, has anybody called 911?
Mm.
And nobody had. I was like, this isn't just a hobo. This is a man and he needs help. Somebody call 911. And I just laid there and I mean just held him and just kept pleading with him, don't close your eyes. And somebody did call 911. They asked a few questions. I told them what I could, and then the man that whole time he was looking at me and then he closed his eyes. And I was like, sir, I get it, you're tired and everything. But just, at least squeeze my hand. Just squeeze my hand, let me know you're here. Otherwise I'm gonna have to start mouth to mouth. And and then he gave me a slight squeeze and then a little bit stronger, and then he opened his eyes. And then at that point, right after that, the paramedics showed up and everything. I don't know how long it took, but when the paramedics got there and I looked up, that bus was empty. Like everybody had gotten off and gone on their way. But what gets me is we were over there by Fred Hutch, and I know it's a cancer research, facility, but I mean, those people know a little bit more about medicine than I did. And anyway, so yeah, I saved a couple of lives since I got up here.
Well, I really appreciate your stories, and what I'm really hearing at a deep and profound level is the humanity, seeing humanity everywhere.
Yeah, and
Really
that's
important.
well, and that's like, again, why I don't get caught up in the identity stuff is because we're all human.
Yeah.
We are. And I know why people want to do it. So, hopefully, people will look, be able to see from, a different perspective than, necessarily their own and everything. But again, we're all human. We're here for each other. And when it comes to like, you know, as far as like having any kind of like success, like I said, I mean, um, we, I never did. I mean, I never made, more than $49,000 a year, but, you know, and a lot of people, when they use that term success, the ruler they use is, how much money you make. But that's not the ruler I use. The ruler I use is how many lives did I touch in a good way? And, did I brighten somebody's day? You know, that's the ruler. And I mean, sure, it doesn't pay much and, you know, uh, um, I don't have a lot of money, but you know what? I consider myself to be one of the most fortunate men ever. I mean, as a hobo over there on Bell and Elliott, there was used to be an old pot shop, and on the bottom was a pot shop and then a t-shirt shop, and then on the top were a couple of apartments. And you know, I ended up meeting the owner of the pot shop one evening. He asked me. I was in the like outside, and he was standing there talking with people, and kind of looked at me and he goes, you want to come upstairs and get high? And I'm like, dude, I'm a pothead. What do you think? It's like, is that rhetorical? So we go upstairs and he just having like a little get together. People showed up and I think Marshawn Lynch, one of the football players, a couple of the football players were there. But anyway, I was just chilling, talking with people and everything and talking with them. And but I had to make arrangements when it was getting late so that I could show up at my shelter before midnight and still had my spot. So I'm on the phone trying to arrange that, and all of a sudden Nick is standing there and he's got a yellow piece of paper or a pad, and he writes, "You're staying here now or tonight." And this was like the middle of November. And I mean, upstairs was like this, there was two apartments, and he let me stay in one of them that was, I mean, well over 2,000 square feet. I mean, two full baths, two rooms, a kitchen with a thermidor range, and I mean, it was amazing, and it had a view of the bay with a wood burning fireplace. And I moved up here to be like by the water, and I spent hours, especially at night, burning that fireplace because in Texas, fireplace is pretty much just for show. So I mean, I stayed up for hours burning the fire and watching the ferries go by and everything. And again, that's one of the reasons why I use the term hobo. It's like I'm the last person you want to pity. I mean, it was amazing. And over two different times, I stayed there for about 6 months total. And if you think about it, that was about 1/6 of the time that I was homeless, which was just under 3 years. Just under 3 years.
Well, we're surprisingly coming close to the end of our time together.
Yeah. Then there is, I think we were talking about it. There's a certain, the way I see it, when you break down like the classifications of the people who are homeless, one, you have the people, into drugs and alcohol. Then you have, the ones who, are crazy. There's another very large, population of the foster kids who go through the system, and then when they turn 18, they are on their own. And so a lot of them end up homeless, and then that leads to drugs and alcohol, and it's just, you know, and then there's the homeless out there, who are homeless just because, they don't want to work. If you want to help somebody, concentrate on the foster kids, because they're you can't help people on drugs and alcohol unless they want to get off. Most of them don't, or if they do, it's only half-hearted. As far as the crazy people, well, I mean, we can't lock them up. I don't have that answer, but if you want to make a difference, work with the foster kids, because if you can catch them young, give them the support that they need. There's a really good video. It's a song by The Script called oh, I can't remember. Never mind. Can't remember the song, but it's about, helping the foster kids out there get into housing and everything. So if you want to help people, those are the ones you should concentrate on.
Well, thank you, Truth. I really appreciate your time with us today, and I want to repeat the beautiful wisdom that you had, which is to measure your life ruler is how many lives have you touched. And I think that is gold right there. Like that, if I can do that, I am the most prosperous and abundant person if I can continue to touch lives in a way that's a benefit.
Yeah,
So
and
I
leave the world
love
a little
that.
bit better place. And so,
Yeah.
that's my spiritual practice.
Yes.
And I'm again, I'm one of the most fortunate men who've ever lived. And that was another thing that got me through being homeless, is I concentrated on the good stuff and not the bad. And sure, there were days when it truly sucked and everything, but you know what? Not all that time. And honestly, the 3 years probably would have been closer to 2 years if the services weren't, available, that I had up here. I would have probably, gotten out like 2 years earlier. Who's to say? But we all have our road to walk.
That's right. Well, thank you, Truth. I
Mhm.
appreciate you, and I love you, and I love that you're in our community. And yeah,
Oh, we're gonna have the best time at CPAC.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
So that does bring us to the time where we're going to advertise what we're up to. So I wanted to give Stephanie Ann an opportunity to let those people know out there what's happening with you. Remembering that this show goes live on the 19th.
Please look for me at Bumbershoot this year. It's my very first time playing Bumbershoot. I'm very excited to be one of the people chosen to play music for, you know, the city, for Bumbershoot, for creatives everywhere. Bless it. And then also please look for me on the 8th of September. I will be back at CSL. One of the things that you had me thinking about, Truth, is that Maya Angelou encourages us to be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. And every time I'm able to be at CSL and do that for some folks, it really it lifts my spirit. So thank you so much for the opportunity. Truth, thank you so much for your stories and your perspective. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with queer elders. It's very important for me, and I think for a lot of other queer youth that may be out there, to know that we are allowed to live our lives. We are allowed to get old. It's a possibility for us. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And I will be doing a women's retreat where both women, people who identify as female and those who identify as non-binary are welcome to attend. And it's a Sister Spirit Day retreat that you can find more information on our website, the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle website, spiritualliving.org, on November 30th. We're having a day retreat, which will be fun here at the center. And one of my favorite things to do is retreat. So that's what's up and coming for me. And we're going to have our show bookend next month in September, where we're going to talk to a person who is trans and trans female and came out to as a woman in a male prison. So interesting conversations that I'm so grateful for, and I learned so much about others and how to be a great human on this planet. So thank you again, Truth, for your time and your modeling of being an amazing human being. And I'm going to go ahead and pray us out. So let's take in a deep breath. And so know with me right here, right now, that there is that infinite presence that I call Source, God, Spirit, and the universe. And I recognize and know that its nature is love. And every time I'm tuned in, tapped in to that love, that I am guided to actions that are loving. So I'm grateful to know that that love permeates all beings. And I'm so grateful to know that it awakens me and shows me the way of being a loving human on this planet, so that I can measure my prosperity by the lives that I touch for the better. And I'm grateful to acknowledge and know that this is spirit driven, that I listen and that I'm open to the evolution of my heart and my soul in this way. I'm grateful to claim and know that, and to know that this time together has been sacred and good and blessed and holy. And for that, I'm grateful. And so it is. All right, everybody have a great time, and we'll see you in a month.
All righty.